Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic
Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we have a very, very cool and fun episode. We did the Fantastic Story, the A-list team. It's Daredevil, Man Without Fear, and the team on that book was Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. I don't know if this is the first time they worked together, but it's definitely like one of the best times they've worked together.
Oh yeah, this is it was very beautiful comic.
Yeah, I thought that like John Romita, who's worked with Frank Miller a lot over the years, he did The Last Crusade, the Dark Knight book that we read about Jason Todd getting beat by the Joker.
Yeah.
He did recently he did Superman Year One with Frank Miller. He's got like a very square look, which fits Frank Miller's square look anyway. Like it looks like if you didn't tell me that he did the art for this, I'd be like, oh yeah, Frank Miller just kind of changed his style a bit in the 90s or whatever. So, but yeah, this is like a really fantastic book. And when I was reading it, I was kind of like, this is basically like Frank Miller doing, instead of like he had, if you think about this in his timeline of Frank Miller, so he started off in Daredevil. That's where he got like really popular. Then he did X-Men, like Wolverine and stuff. Then he did Batman, Dark Knight Returns, and he did Batman Year One. And then he came to Daredevil, and this is like his, or he came back to Daredevil, and this is like his Daredevil Year One, where like he's like, I'm gonna set the record straight on some of these questions maybe that people have asked at every Comic-Con I go to or whatever. I don't know.
What about?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what happened when in issue 176 when Stick said that Electro was evil, but then he doesn't actually show what happened, and like I'm sure he's just like, okay, I'm gonna write this fucking comic, and that'll say what it is. Also, I kind of noticed. So this is like from 1993. So this is Frank Miller when he's writing Sin City and some of those other kind of like really gritty like crime books.
Yeah.
And because Daredevil is a like street level crime character in our world kind of thing, he really like had the crime be really horrible stuff. It's like this book is pretty adult. It's pretty adult for a Marvel book.
Yeah, that's true. Especially some of the, like you said, the underground crime things going on.
Yeah, like example, Kingpin, like when he takes over and stuff, he's like, first things first, let's get our child pornography ring like on budget. All right, like he just talks about it like, you know, like I have like a child trafficking part of this business and it's not making as much money as it should. So like we got to cut the budget on that a little bit, tighten the belt. And it's just like, whoa, he's just like talking about this like very nonchalantly.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see that. But I think it's specifically because he's been writing at this same time, like Sin City and some of those like grittier books, you know, that where he didn't have any restraints. Because like Sin City is his independent stuff. So he could do kind of whatever he wanted. And with this, it's a Marvel book, but he was kind of pushing the boundaries. Another thing I couldn't tell with this one is, it says issues 1 through 5 on the book, but everything I looked up on it said it was like an original graphic novel. Like even his letters at the back of it, because this was like a fancy graphic novel that had like the script and all the notes between him and the editors and stuff. And it was like, this graphic novel should blah, 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 blah. Like, so I didn't know if it was a afterthought to make it 5 issues.
More stylized.
Yeah. Well, and also like, obviously you could tell each issue had a break, but then when you looked at the script, it had like act. I thought it was gonna have 5 acts because it's 5 issues.
Nope.
It was like 20 acts in that thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. I don't think Frank understands the concept of an act, but all right.
They were actually, I'll say in reading that there were 1 or 2 of the breaks in between for the issues, quote unquote.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, that was a weird spot. Like I felt like it could have got like they could have been like it could have gone a couple more pages, or
Right.
There was like 1 or 2 where I was like, oh, that was weird, but I get why it would stop there, but didn't need to.
Yeah, it needed to stop because it was 30 pages,
Yeah.
basically. And this is also, these issues were a little bit longer because they're 30 pages each instead of 22 or 18. So so you got like a good hefty book, but it went really fast.
Yeah, it was fast. It definitely didn't feel long. It wasn't technically long, but it felt like I got to the end of this and I was like, I feel like I didn't quite get a full resolution that I was hoping for, and I feel like I could have gone another like issue or two, quote unquote.
Right. Well, and that's why I was like, this for sure was supposed to be like a year one Daredevil, because it's just supposed to be like filling in some blanks, and it leaves you hanging right when he becomes Daredevil fully. This is him. This is like even before year one. I'm trying to. I haven't read. We haven't read Batman Year One for this podcast, and I haven't read it in a long time anyway. And so I'm trying to remember exactly what the format of that is. But in this, it's like he's a kid, and then he's like a little kid. Then he's like a teenager. Then he's like in college, and then he's like a 20-something, late 20s lawyer. So like each issue has him at like a different age kind of thing. And so I think Batman Year One, it might be different than that. Like maybe most of it's in his late 20s or whenever before he gets the Batman costume and whatnot. But this is like that, where you have he's never really got the costume on until the last page for Daredevil. So and they even like make a joke at him because he says like at the last page it says like, I'm wearing this badass costume, and I don't even know what it looks like.
Made it myself. I don't know what it looks like, though.
Yeah. So like I said, 5 issues, and like we said at the very beginning, he's a kid, and so it's Matt Murdock, and he's living in Hell's Kitchen in New York, and he's got a dad who's also named who's Jack Murdock, and he's like battling Jack, I believe is his nickname. He's a boxer who's like kind of a shitty middling boxer. He's not like doing great things, but he can kind of pay the bills sometimes when he's on a winning streak or whatever. He's also like an alcoholic-ish. They kind of allude to that, but he's not. He seems like a fairly good dad, like not a terrible father.
Yeah, he talks about like Matt kind of sneaks around and gets into trouble here and there, and he would. Yeah, it's a good thing that Dad doesn't know about these things because, like, Dad actually pays attention to me, and
right.
So
yeah, like they say like, oh, his mom's gone, and they don't really bring that up too much. Basically, he's like, oh, Dad's sad again, and he's like sitting there looking at a picture in the dark of his mom, I guess his wife or Matt's mom, and he's like, I can't remember what her name is, like Maggie or whatever, but like, like he's just always pining for her apparently. But yeah, like, so he, like John was saying, he's kind of mischievous. He's not a bad kid, but like we see, he likes to put on a little ski mask and do a little mischief, like mess with the cops in Hell's Kitchen, or like just jump around on rooftops and shit and run around. And so he's got like he's got a lot of energy. We'll call it that. He probably would have been on Ritalin if this was the 90s, but he was not. That didn't exist then. So, yeah, and then we see like Jack basically has to end up like working for the mob because they approach him and they're like, "Hey, like if you don't be our like collector," it's kind of like Rocky.
Like you got a punch, and we could have a use for you, and so you should rough up some people for us collect money. And if you don't do it, well,
yeah, then your kid's gonna be sad with no parents, huh? But I don't know. You just give him a stereotypical Italian accent. So, basically, so they like basically force him into doing it. He doesn't want to do it. He wears a ski mask, so I'm assuming like the neighborhood doesn't know it's him. Although I don't know how you couldn't tell. Like, it's Matt, the guy who comes and buys meat from me every day with a ski mask on. What's he doing? Like, give me the money.
And now he's taking money from me.
What is this? I don't understand.
I just sold you a porterhouse earlier. Yeah. What are you doing?
It's a deli. I don't know. What are you talking about? Salamis. And so he's got to do it. He doesn't like it, but he's doing it. And then also they make him like throw fights and stuff. So like that's mainly like the thing that really happens that messes everything up is like his dad throws a fight or doesn't throw a fight. He's supposed to throw a fight. He doesn't throw a fight.
He tells Matt's watching, and he tells him he said he always told Matt that basically he's not going to give up.
He would never give up. So that's what happens is he was gonna throw it, but then he looks at Matt in the crowd and he's like, can't do it, and he knocks the guy out, and then the mob comes for him. But even before that, we see like Matt's besides his mischievousness, he likes fighting, or he likes the idea of fighting. Obviously growing up in a gym with your dad being a boxer, he's like, I get picked on at school, I'm gonna pop this kid in the mouth. And then the dad's like, never punch anyone. Look how like shitty our life is because of me, basically.
Don't be a fighter. Read them books.
Yeah, but then like Matt does it one time and he comes home and I think his dad's drunk or something, or just mad because he's been like having to deal with the mob stuff. And he's like, Dad, I popped that kid Jimmy in the face or whatever. And the dad actually like hits him and is like, I told you not to. I don't know. He had a closed fist.
It did kind of look like I assumed it was a back fist, but
yeah,
it may have been.
It was a closed fist though. On like we'll say he's like 5 at this time or something. So from that point on, he's like. Then I knew like even people that you think can't be bad can be bad at times. So like I need to like be a lawyer. Like I need to understand justice and law and stuff. So he like goes super nerdy egghead.
Yeah, basically he's book studies and then he gets his aggression out. Like his favorite place happens to still be like the gym. He likes the feel of being able to punch a bag and get out kind of his anger. And like
so he kind of like self-trains
because he grew up around it. So
yeah, so he's like self-training on his own little punching bag, and we see in the background there's a man who's watching him, not creepily at all, and yeah, this is a guy just watching him from far, or not from afar, but like in the dark. He's watching this boy box, and then. Like we all know, that kind of has the origin of Daredevil here, where Matt
the accident.
Yeah, Matt helps an old man across the street, or is helping an old man not get hit by a truck that has radioactive stuff, and he gets the radioactive stuff in his eyes, becomes Daredevil, and then basically Stick is the old man. Stick is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Daredevil TV show or anything with Daredevil. Stick, and Frank Miller came up with this in the late 70s, early 80s too, like this whole origin of Daredevil. But Stick was like his master who taught him everything he knows about like fighting and everything, which is why he's like trained like he is. So after he gets blind, Stick is the guy who was watching him in the dark, and he finds him and he's like, hey, little kid, I'm going to teach you how to be like a ninja or whatever. So then there's like a whole training montage thing, which I really liked all the training stuff. It was a little long because we already know this.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like I said, year one.
Yeah, he showed him how to like kind of sense punches and sense things coming at him. And then like I like the progression at least, like they're that, and then they're like on the rooftops and they're like, we're gonna jump buildings, and like, what?
yeah, just I'm a blind kid, I'm gonna jump a building with this guy named Stick I met, I'm like, yeah. And I guess his dad's just out shaking people down for money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like the kids at school, or that's how his name, because they call him Daredevil. You can't.
It's like an ironic nickname.
Yeah, like oh, you're blind, so you're not gonna.
Like if you called me Little John or something, or John Little John, then it's an ironic name.
Yeah, it's meant to poke fun, not to be cool. So
yeah,
we've all had those names.
So cut back to the dad not throwing the fight. Well, now the mobsters are like, okay, we got a problem with this guy. So they didn't even like bother to be like, next time you better do what we tell you, Jack.
No, he exits the stadium and it's like, hey, Jack, well, bam. They just start beating the crap out of him.
Beating the fuck out of him. And then they just like shoot him in the face after they beat him up. So he's dead.
Yeah. It's like literally like the next issue, the break is like Matt identifying his dad at the morgue.
Yeah, there's no like, is he actually dead? Because it cuts away because it's a Marvel comic and you just see a panel that says blam. So you're like, did he shoot the dirt, or what happened? And then like then the next panel and the first page of the next issue is Matt at the morgue identifying his dad. So it was, oh, he actually did die. So then now Matt has been trained by Stick. He's like a super fucking. He's like a 3 ninjas kick back or whatever. Like he's a little kid who's got all these ninja powers, just like I wanted to. I wish I had read this when I was a little kid. it would have made me try to be like Daredevil. And I mean, I was already trying to be like Ninja Turtles and everything anyway, but it would have given me like another ninja person to like attach to. And so he goes after all these guys because he's like heard their names throughout the last couple of years or whatever, or a couple months, and he's like, oh, I gotta go after Angelo and I gotta go after Slade. And then so Slade is the one that I like noticed that I was like, holy shit. The other ones like he's just beating him up normal, but like beating him up to a bloody pulp, and they're like, it was Battling Jack. He was back from the grave. He beat us up, and the cops are like, he's fucking dead. Like there's no ghosts or whatever.
We were there. We saw his body. He's dead.
So yeah, like he knows what. Or like they feel like the punches that they were getting was from a heavyweight boxer, even though it's like a 6-year-old kid. That's some punches right there. But they show later on that he had like rolls of pennies in his hands, so it's like made him heavier and harder. So that was cool. But specifically, Slade was like another boxer who they got to beat him up before they shot him in the head. And that guy is one of the hairiest motherfuckers I've ever seen drawn on a page. I don't know, like John Romita was like, this guy is gonna be hairy, but he has some hair, body hair all over. He's wearing like, what do they call them now? They're not called wife beaters. They're called, I don't know.
Undershirt?
I don't know. Armless undershirt. Yeah, sleeveless undershirt. He's wearing one of those, and you could see all the hair all over him, and it was pretty.
I forgot they were called that. That's horrible.
Pretty ridiculous. But so he comes to the gym where the guy's training. He's like, "Hey, you," and he like knocks out the guy that was like with him, Marcelo or whatever his name is, and then he's like, why don't you fight me in here? And it's like a little kid, right? So the guy's like, I'll take you on, you little pipsqueak. And the first thing he fucking does is the guy's like kind of walking towards him. He kicks Slade in the fucking knee, but he like not only breaks his knee like backwards, he like breaks his shin bone at the top too, because the bone is like coming out of the back.
Yeah.
So it's like he bends the dude's knee backwards and shatters his whatever that bone's called, his shin bone, and makes it go backwards, which isn't good. And it was like one of the most fucked up like things I've seen in like a Marvel comic.
Yeah, especially for a little kid.
Yeah, this isn't like Max either. This is just regular, prestige form. That's why I was like, was this an original graphic novel? Because if it came out in issues, I can't imagine like the comics code or Marvel being okay with some of this stuff. But I don't know. Well, I couldn't find that much about this series, and like I don't know if it's kind of lost in time because he's done so many Daredevil books, but like if this is one of those ones that I was even telling John this earlier, like I wasn't sure which one this was when we said, hey, let's read that one, because he's done so much Daredevil work that I was like, is that this one or that one? I can't remember what the story is. So this I think this was like kind of under the radar, like graphic novels, so that he could get away with some stuff, or at least some weird prestige format where he could get away from the code and whatnot. But yeah, so Matt just keeps going on a streak where he like finally chases down like the second to the main guy, and that dude just has a heart attack because he's chasing him so hard. I was like, Jesus Christ, the guy has a gun on Matt Murdock. He chases him into the subway, and the dude's like, I can hear his heartbeat, and he's breathing, and his heartbeat, and then he's like, and then there's nothing. And
then his heart stops.
Yeah, and then he's just like, get away. Like he just falls down dead. I was like, oh my God. So then he finally chases down, I think this dude's name is Angelo.
Angelo, yeah. In the strip club?
Yeah.
Brothel or whatever it is.
I think it's a strip club. I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely like scantily clad
adult
ladies.
Again.
I'm going to say this. This is also where I was like, this can't be a normal Marvel book, because some of the ladies in this are topless, even though it's not very detailed. And I'm like, there's no way Marvel would have that in a book like in 1993.
Yeah.
I don't know. They were pushing boundaries like with some stuff like that back then, but not at Marvel. I didn't remember. So, but like I said, they're actually like topless in this, but like from far away, so there's not a lot of detail. But he gets Angelo, and then all the girls are like, "Who's this idiot? Like, let's jump on him."
Yeah, he's not a cop.
Yeah, they're like, he's too little to be a cop. So they all jump on him, and then one of them gets pushed out of a window, and she falls to her death. And he can like hear her bones crunch and like her die, and he's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it, like that happened." I let my emotions get a hold of me, and he like runs back to the gym, and he basically just like curls up and cries because he's a little kid still.
Yeah, he calls out for like Stick, and
Stick ain't there.
Yeah, nobody's there, so it's just him, and he's all Yeah, I mean, he blames himself for that. I mean, I don't know if he wasn't really the one who pushed her out. She just kind of like fell back from the group.
I think it wasn't like he pushed her. I think it was just like in the commotion, he probably like threw backwards. Someone's on his back, and then she fell out or whatever. But then it's funny because like Stick is talking to someone in a hotel, and he's like the boy has failed or whatever.
The boy is reckless.
Yeah, he's reckless. He has failed his test. He cannot be one of us. And he's talking to some dude named Stone. So you have Stick and Stone.
Stick and Stone.
I was like, wow, that's kind of on the nose, but I want to say this might be where Frank Miller started to go just a little bit off the path. Like this is good still, but I feel like there's a couple things in this book that happen later on where I feel like, oh, this is where Dark Knight Strikes Again. This is where it started. Is this graphic novel? Not that we didn't like Dark Knight Strikes Again, but there are people who hate that book for certain reasons.
Yeah, no,
and he definitely has like an extreme vein that he's gone in, and I think this is when he started to go.
I could see that
because Sin City, I would say Sin City would be the start of that. Except that book kind of, if that was just the only thing that happened, just he made Sin City and never really went off the deep end. People would be like, oh, that's an amazing book, and he really like went and broke some boundaries and stuff. But I think he broke the boundaries with that book, or like started to in his head with that book. And then he did this, and he never like got off that road. So this was kind of like in the mainstream breaking those rules. So I think then he was like, I'm gonna do it to Batman later on too and stuff. And then so some people do not like where he's gone since this point. But I would argue this is still really good. And even the later books, some of them are like really, really good. But yeah, like some of this stuff was a little bit on the nose or like way too extreme for me, I thought, just for like Daredevil personally. But, I'm comparing it to like the 70s stuff. So, you can't really compare those two things because they're like different codes and different eras and all that stuff. But you can definitely see where he started going off the rails a little bit. So like we said, Matt Murdock failed. So then it cuts ahead. It says 1 year. So he was like, I guess the beginning he was a little kid, and then it was him as a teenager when his dad died.
Yeah.
So I guess he'd been an enforcer for the mob for like 10 years, something like that. They don't say. There's only a couple times where it says actual years passing, like how much. And this is one of them. It says 1 year later, he's in Columbia Law School as a freshman. So he was like 17 or 18 there, where he killed the lady on accident, and then
now he's like 18, 19.
Yeah, now he's in college. Well, I mean, he can't be a freshman and be 20. I mean, you can, but that'd be weird. So he'd have to be 18 or 19, I would think, depending on what year he was born. So right away we meet Foggy Nelson, who is, if you are up on the Netflix show, his best friend, who is a fat dumb oaf.
Well, he's not dumb because he's a lawyer too.
I will say he's dumb in the way he's book smart.
Yeah,
he's not street smart, and he's not like he's a little naive about people and whatnot. So, but he's friends with Foggy, and he's in the straight and narrow right now. Like he has given up from that point where he killed someone, like the fighting and stuff. He still does like running on the rooftops for funsies. And like has
in the gym still.
Yeah, like training and stuff, but it's just for training, just to keep his like skills up. It's not really to like fight crime or anything or get back at people. And he always knows where that edge is. Like, I gotta stay on the straight and narrow.
He kind of he goes a little because like Foggy has a bully, and he like the bully was really getting on Foggy, and like he like kidnaps kind of the bully one night.
Yeah, from his room. It was kind of like it's like a prank though. Like it's like a prank that you would do in college anyway. But it's like he ties him up like naked outside. It's snowing, so he's cold. He's face down. He's dick down in the snow. So because he's like hogtied. So I mean, he could have got frostbite, I guess. What if he died from that? That would have been like a weird turn in the story if he had just like killed the guy in an accident and be like, God damn it, why can't I stop killing people?
Would be horrible.
Yeah. But anyway, so the guy like learns his lesson, the bully, and he's like, because he says like, if you don't stop fucking with Foggy, like this is just the beginning or whatever kind of thing. So then the guy's all like, hey Foggy, I'm sorry, I just want to tell you, like I want to be your friend now, and I think you're a pretty cool guy. And then like Foggy's like, what was that about? And then this is where you see like, for some reason, also like being on the straight and narrow means like no girls. So like a girl approaches him because she's like, ooh, I like his cool glasses or whatever she says. And was thinking, and she's like, hey, you want to go out sometime? He's like, no, I don't go out with women or whatever. Like I stay like pure from everything, like fighting and ladies or whatever. I don't know what it was about that, but for some reason he can't be with ladies in his mind. And then like we said, he goes out at nights and like we'll just jump around on the roofs and stuff. And one of those nights
picks up a scent.
And this was one of those like, wait, Frank Miller is losing me a little bit here. He likes to talk about Elektra's scent a lot. Like a lot. And it's funny. I mean, you get it because it's like Daredevil, right? So he's got heightened senses. He's like, I can smell her. I can smell her breath. I can smell her scent. I can smell everything or whatever. Like, and then so he starts chasing her, and she's like, he doesn't know who she is at first, and like, he's just chasing some woman that's on the rooftops with him, or some person. Then he's like, oh, it's a woman, and then he like chases her into a park. And then this is like the thing. This is where you really see like this dude needs to like get laid really bad, because the second he picks up on her scent, in quotation marks, like he becomes a fucking bumbling idiot while he's trying to chase her. So like he's tripping over shit, he's slipping on snow, like all of his training goes out the window. It's just like real life. And he's like, I don't know what it is about this girl, but I'm gonna fucking catch her. And so like she like lures him into a park, and she starts screaming like, oh, help me, he's raping me or whatever. She doesn't say that, but like she basically shows that because she takes off all of her clothes,
yeah,
and then like runs away, leaves them all there, including her panties. She like leaves panties on a tree, and he says like, he keeps saying her scent. I'm like, stop, you can't. The second you show that, you can't. That's really weird and creepy.
Yeah, stop using that word now.
Now you know that Daredevil's like sniffing underwear from far away and stuff, because that's what his superpower is about. And it'd be like if you had like Superman and like Lois Lane is making him like, or like some Poison Ivy or someone is like making him follow her, and then she's like makes him look at her with her X-ray eyes or something. You know what I mean? Like it's just a weird thing, and he's never done that before, and it's kind of.
Yeah, that would be.
I don't know. It just made. I don't know. It just kind of didn't feel characteristic of Daredevil, but maybe that's because this is year one, and he is more dumb or whatever, a dumb guy in his 19, 20-year-old or whatever. But yeah,
it was weird. Yeah, so he picks up clothes, and then as soon as he's picking up clothes, of course, is when some cops show up.
Yeah, because she called the cops, so she's like, or someone did.
Yeah,
you assume maybe her, because she's like setting him up,
and they're like, freeze. You obviously try to get somebody, and he's like,
I'm blind.
And they're like, oh, okay, well.
Oh yeah, blind people can't do anything bad, so we'll just let you go. And she thinks it's funny. Then like when they were like kind of like giving him a lecture, she is able to get her clothes and put them back on.
Stealthy.
Yeah, but she definitely. I mean, they don't show what happens to her underwear, so I'm assuming he saves it for her scent later.
It for later.
Yeah, I mean. With the amount he talks about her scent, I assume he took the underwear.
Excuse me, miss. You left these in the park the other day. I was saving them for you.
Yeah, exactly. He needs to keep the scent fresh so he can find her later. That's what it's about. So, but he doesn't even need to find her later, because like the next day, him and Foggy are like, "Oh man, class that was good" or whatever. And then like she drives up in her Ferrari.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, big boy, why don't you come with me? And Matt's instantly like, fuck you, Foggy.
See, he just jumps in the car with her.
There was no bros before hoes with Matt Murdock. He is hoes all the way. So
Foggy's like, what are you doing? He's like, see ya.
Yeah, get the fuck out of my way, nerd. Like, kick rocks, you loser. And so, yeah, he jumps in the Ferrari with Elektra. It's snowing, and the top's down. So, fantastic. They're just, like, driving, and she's driving all crazy.
She's driving. We didn't expand upon. She is driving crazy.
Insane. It's
like,
snow. There's snow on the roads.
Yeah.
In a Ferrari that doesn't have, like, you know, like
obviously didn't have like chains or snow tires on, and she's like zipping through cars and sliding around. It was ridiculous. She's like, "Oh, we just like to live on the edge."
Yes, she kind of reminded me of like GoldenEye, James Bond, like the beginning scene with like Femke Janssen and him racing or whatever. It's like that kind of. And then like she jumps, like she pulls up to this. She drives off the road first off, and there's like what into like the woods. Then she like drives up to a cliff. And then slams on the brakes right before she's about to slide off the cliff, and they barely don't slide off the cliff. And she's like, I live on the wild side. You should try it sometime. And he's like, I don't like the wild side. And then this is like a recurring thing that keeps him grounded through the comic is he always has, and this was like a nice, like, how to show this. Like, instead of having him have inner dialogue, like, no, I can't because the girl died, blah, 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 which is what they would have done like the 70s or whatever. They just show the same image of the girl falling to her death from earlier. Like in the same panel, like miniaturized. So then he's like, I can't go like crazy, and she's like, come on, go crazy with me. He's like, no, I mustn't. And then, like I said, she's on the cliff with him, and she's like, come on, let's go real crazy. And she's like, she jumps in the water, and then
she just jumps off the side of the cliff.
Yeah, and so he hears. Keep in mind, he's blind, so he can't see what's below. So. He hears like ice break and water. He's like, okay, ice. Therefore, I mean, if you jumped into ice, I would imagine that would still hurt really bad.
Yeah.
But apparently it's thin ice. I don't know. So he jumps in after her to save her in like freezing water, and she somehow got out of there in time to climb the cliff and drive away before he can like find her or whatever. And so then he's got to he basically took the biggest cold shower ever and then had to like walk home in the snow and the freezing with his freezing clothes on.
Yeah.
So, then like he comes home and Foggy's like, oh, what happened? And he's like, tell me who this bitch is. like who is this Elektra girl? And he's like, don't you know? And so then he's like, then this was like kind of like, this would be really creepy now if it was in a comic to have Daredevil like track her down and break into her house. But that's what he does. He's like, I got to find out about this girl. So he like stalkerly breaks into her house, her dad's house, because she lives with her dad, who is like a diplomat or something from Greece, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't really go into his past much. I think that's all in like the comic itself, like Daredevil, when Elektra was in there and when Frank Miller was writing in the late or early 80s. But yeah, basically her dad's like a Greek like diplomat, and so he breaks in there, but they have all these armed security guards, and it's like her birthday or something. And that was the other thing. She also looks way older than him in this. She looks like she's like 35, and he's like 19. It's like, hi, ma'am. Like, you know, she's got a Ferrari and everything. She just seems like an older woman.
Mrs. Robinson.
Yes, exactly. But like not a teen.
You're trying to seduce me, crazy woman?
Yeah. And so she like, it's her birthday. She's playing piano for everybody. And he breaks in and he's trying to find her. He like breaks into her room because once again, he's like, she's been in here. And he's like, oh, it's her room. Let me get all the sense I can out of this room. And so
not creepy at all.
Yeah, he's like sniffing her pillows. He wasn't doing that, but I'm assuming he was doing that just because he keeps talking about her scent. And so then he like is like he opens the door to her bedroom, and like he's like, I hear a dog.
He realizes first that she's a fighter because he feels like all these trophies and whatnot.
Oh yeah, he's like, it says like karate and aikido, and
he's like, okay, I got to be on my guard or whatever.
Yeah,
but then he goes to open the door,
and he's like, oh, a dog. I can hear a dog. Dogs love me.
Yeah, dogs love me.
Right after he says that, he kicks this dog in the fucking throat because it's like a Doberman that's like attacking him.
Yeah.
But he just said 2 seconds earlier, dogs love me. And then he
kicks it in the throat.
Yeah, and just like, die, dog. And the dog, I'm sure, is dead. They don't show the dog dead, but I'm pretty sure the dog's dead. So now the security is aware that someone's in the house. He causes a big ruckus. He like jumps through.
Oh, he kicks a guy, and that guy falls through a glass ceiling.
Yeah.
Down into the party area where everyone is.
Yeah, because they have like a big atrium that has like, you know, all glass and everything. So just like, you know, like any kind of movie from back then, those last fight scenes would always end in one of those rooms.
Yeah.
So he breaks through the room, and she's like playing the piano, and she never stops playing piano through all this. Like they're shooting at him, he's running. They end up like shooting him in the arm, and he gets away before they can catch him. But she never stops playing piano. So you're like, what? This bitch is crazy. Like, and yeah, she looks all weird in this too, because like she's trying to like look little or like young for her dad. I guess like she's in like a little dress, like a frilly, poofy dress, and she has like glasses on and stuff. I don't know. She doesn't look like she looks later on in the comic. So, and then this is like the beginning of what leads to their kind of relationship. He finally makes it home after like stumbling because he's like losing a lot of blood. He like gets in his tidy whities to go like take a shower and like rinse off all the blood and everything. And when he's in there, all of a sudden, Elektra shows up.
Yeah, he's in there, he's patching himself up, and the shower's running. He's like, "Oh, okay, maybe it's left it on for me, or maybe that's foggy," and it's not foggy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that'd be funny if it was foggy. Oh, it's foggy in there.
It's foggy in there,
but it's not Foggy Nelson. So it's Foggy's Nelson, if you know what I mean. No, but like, yeah, he opens or like he sees her nails kind of like opening the curtain. He's like, "Oh my gosh!"
Oh,
so Elektra and him fuck. So this was funny. I thought this was like a good scene where like Foggy comes home to go to bed, and I'm almost sure this happened to me in college where I go to like open my door and I can't get in. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Hey, why is the door locked?
Yeah, why is the door locked? And then like the chain, you know, you open it and the chain hits, and you're like, what the fuck? And then like he's like, Matt, and then Matt comes up and he's like in his underwear. He's like, give me like 10 minutes, and then like closes the door. Then like Foggy's waiting outside. He's like, man, what the fuck is this? And then the door opens and Elektra walks out and she's got this big fur coat on, and he's like, oh, they like totally FUCKED'd.
They did it.
Yeah, they did it.
And the room is the room is a mess.
It looks like they fucked on Foggy's bed, on all of his
on
stuff,
the walls,
on all of his, you know, Bob Seger albums or whatever the fuck he listens to. And so yeah, they totally did it. And Matt looks completely like his face is all red. Like I just imagine her slapping the shit out of him like while they're fucking or whatever. It's just like he's got all these like red areas on his face, like she's been choking him, and like I don't know. It just looks weird to me
compared to his normal. Like he usually has a fairly white complexion.
Yes,
he definitely.
He looks like
rosy in several places.
He looks like Deadpool. Like with the red face or what, like the way his face is, just those areas on Deadpool's mask are just bright red on his white face. So then Elektra, like after doing that, like walks through Times Square, and at this time apparently, just like in, you know, Taxi Driver and every movie from like the late 70s, 80s, and early 90s, apparently Times Square was like the worst, grossest place ever, full of crime and everything. So she's walking through there, and she's like trying to get assaulted, like, and we're not saying she's asking for it, she's literally asking for it.
No,
you know, like,
she starts saying like, oh, the voices in my head, you know, they basically, the psychiatrists and stuff I've had before, I've had to lie to and tell them like, oh, everything's fine, but the voices are real.
Yeah,
and like they tell me to like basically like be ready at all times and like ready to fight.
Yeah, so she's looking for a fight. She like walks by these guys and like, you know, tries to make herself look able to be assaulted or whatever.
Yeah, kind of defenseless.
Yes, and so she's got like this big fur coat on and stuff. And this is where, this is like the one amazing scene that I was like, this is where Frank Miller starts to, you know, jump the shark, as they say, I think a little bit. And so she walks down an alley, and they follow her, and they're like, hey, pretty girl, you know, like you walked down the wrong alley, now we're gonna like hurt you. So she disrobes, and she's got like this weird like black underwear on, like
I assume it's like a little fighting gear kind of gi.
Fighting gear that looks like a bikini ish.
Yeah.
And this is where I thought, okay, she looks way older than 19 for sure. Like she looks like 35. She looks like a mix between kind of like Cher. Like she's got Cher from that time. She's got the really long, thick black hair with like the curls. from like the early 90s and stuff. Like picture Cher and if
time.
I could turn back time, Cher, same outfit as turn back time,
Yeah,
Cher,
true.
almost. No fishnets, just the weird like black,
all black
strappy thing that she's got on, like bikini thing, and then the lips of Julia Roberts. So I don't know. That's what it looked like to me, or like, you know, you could say Steven Tyler, I guess, but I'm trying to compare it to a woman. So yeah, that's what she looks like in this. I don't know if John Romita Jr. was going for that, but that's what she looked like to me. And she just straight up murders these people.
Murders.
Just
beat them up.
And I think I'm sure you could do this without her stripping down into the bikini fight costume, but for sure it shows. I mean, it definitely shows that she's crazy and she's evil because she's willing to like kill people just cuz or whatever. Like she gives herself, she puts herself in situations to where like they're bad, sure, and like, you know, if she were an innocent person, they would have got killed or raped. So that gives her justification for what she wants to do, which is like show her skills off and like kill people for funsies. And so she like the first hit, this guy comes up to her with a knife and he's gonna stab her, and she like knees him in the neck, and it says like, and then I hear his vertebrae snap and like he falls down dead, like lifeless or whatever. I'm like, holy shit. And so she just starts taking all these fuckers on and kills all of them. I think there's like 5 or 6 guys. There's 5 guys and 1 woman, I think, is what it is. But she kills them all and then like leaves them in an alley with I love New York written on the wall in their blood.
Yeah. Although she's like, oh, well, that was kind of a disappointing fight.
Yeah. She's a little cuckoo. What? Just a little bit. But that doesn't stop Matt and her from hanging out. He doesn't really know. He doesn't know that she's evil yet. But even when like he's told she is, he's like, yeah, but I don't want her to be.
Yeah,
so
but I kind of like her, you know.
So
we're bumping uglies, though.
Yeah, or whatever they have. So there. This was some fun art for sure. She's wearing, the next panel is like her and him, just cuts to them like in the gym and they're training together, and they're like just show them kind of like acrobatically jumping around and stuff. And he's in, instead of tidy whities, he's got tidy blackies on. He's got like really like a Speedo cut underwears, and she's wearing the same underwear that she was wearing when she was attacking those people.
When she murdered people.
Yeah, and and they're fucking and training. There's kind of like a little bit of a montage of like them training and them fucking, and then like Stick comes at night to tell him like, hey, Elektra's bad stuff. You should stop talking to her. She's evil. And he's like, I don't want to believe it. I don't see anything like that to her. So then they go skiing and they fuck. And then
yeah, at the lodge at the fire.
Oh yeah, like on a bearskin rug. They're both laying once again in their Speedo underwear and you know what she was wearing before. And
that was kind of crazy because they're on the rug, and then Matt's kind of like opening up to her. He's like, I think I love you. And she's like, you don't really know me. I killed 5 guys the other night.
And he's like, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You're silly. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's in denial about it. He doesn't want to believe it. Stick has told him that, you know, she's evil. She's not good for him. And keep in mind, Stick hasn't been in this comic since he was a little kid. So I'm assuming Stick wasn't around for the last like 10 or 15 years. And he just shows up randomly to be like, stop fucking this girl. She's crazy. She's gonna kill you or whatever. And he was like, I don't think so. I think you're being dramatic. So like, that's all I gotta say is Matt is fucking horny for her. He caught her scent hard, and so yeah. So then like basically he never dumps her, and I don't know if this was canon before, but he's never gotten over her because he never was like, I can't be with her. Basically, her dad gets assassinated, like happens in the comic. And she's like, I must leave. Don't like question me. I must leave. And so she goes, and that's it. Like he doesn't have time to like do anything, or like follow her or whatever. He's just like, okay, I guess you just don't want me here anymore. So that's why I think like they later on he's allowed to be like so kind of love struck with her in the actual comic, like in the series or in the run of Daredevil that Frank Miller wrote, because he's giving him like he had some weird like it's like his first like sexual experience with like Elektra, and she's crazy and she's like choking him and slapping him and shit, and it's like the best thing ever. and then like wild craziness, and then like he never got closure on it or anything. So then when she appears later on and she's Elektra, he's like, "But I love you, remember?" And she's like, "No, we're like way past that shit." And he's like, "No, but
I love you.
Remember the choking and the slapping and the fucking,
Remember
the skiing? Yeah,
I remember.
yeah, yeah." So, that's like the last time we see Elektra in this. But I liked that part a lot. Other than I thought it was a little bit off the rails when she like disrobes to kill those people. That's where I'm like, that's some Sin City shit right there. That's like where Frank Miller's like, what if? Like it's just a little kernel of too far. You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's a little bread.
She kills him, but she does it almost naked.
Yeah. What if she's naked? But I've already seen everything. She tries to cover up, but I've already seen everything. Yeah. So then, like, we cut to some guys in a boardroom, and we find out they're like the mob, like the big bad mob, and they're like, oh, like we need to like get what like basically the mob is like out of fashion. Like we're selling 8-tracks and these kids have CDs. Like what the fuck? And like, but they're talking about drugs and shit. Not that.
Like we got crack and nobody wants crack anymore.
Yeah, everybody wants these like new designer drugs like E and whatever the fuck kids do, GHB or whatever. And like they're like, well, I think we should stick with the meat and potatoes. Like this business was built on heroin. It is gonna stay heroin, you know. And so like. Then, like, after the board meeting's over, the guy who, like, said that was kind of talking. I guess he's, like, the head of the family. He's talking to someone in the dark behind him. And he's like, you know, you've always been my most loyal friend, and I appreciate your input. And, like, you really know what you're talking about with this. And then, like, big hands come out of the shadows and snap his fucking neck. And then we find out it's Kingpin. So Kingpin has just taken over, like, all the mob families in this place. And so... once again, we don't see how many years pass, but in the next issue, right away, you see many years have passed. Matt Murdock is now out of college. He is a lawyer in Boston, and Kingpin has taken over every crime stuff in New York. So all of it.
Yeah.
So he is in charge of, like we said at the beginning, child prostitution rings and child trafficking and... the whole drug trade and anything bad you can think about, he's in charge of that, and he's fine with it. He's running it like a business. He's fantastic. So, you know, they're doing great. He's got a henchman named Lark that's apparently his right-hand man.
Yeah.
He comes up way later, but like the only time they mention his name in this is at the very beginning of issue 4, and he's only at the fight scene at the end of issue 5. So I was like, wait, what the fuck is his name? Because he only says his name once in this whole book. So. But basically, Matt is now working in Boston for like a corporate company as their lawyer, and they send him to New York because like, hey, you used to work in New York, right? Well, like, why don't you go do this thing there? You can go visit like some old stomping grounds and whatnot. So he does. He goes to New York. He like automatically gets in a fight with some street toughs and beats the fuck out of them, which I thought was fun. I think this is just like a way, like if you're trying to kill pages, like I need to fill pages in a Daredevil book. Just have him run into a gang of street toughs, and you have easily 5 pages of a fight scene. So, like, you know, I mean, that's what it is. It's literally 5 pages of him beating the shit out of these guys. And, you know, just to show, like, yeah, I'm back in New York. I guess in Boston, they don't have too many guys to fight. So, he does that, and then he, like, yeah, I want to go back to see the gym. And the gym's all boarded up and, like, smelly and, like, it's basically condemned. So, he pulls back some boards, and while he's there, he's like, you know, ruminating in the, you know, kind of remembering when he was a kid, and some person shoots like a marble at his face, and he catches it, of course, because he can see it, and he's like, oh, there's some like girl in here who like hangs out. So he talks to her, and he like, you know, explains who he is or whatever, and they become friends. And she's like 14, and her name's Mickey. And so, and Mick, I wonder if that's why, because of Rocky. There's a Mickey. And the boxer. And
Nick and
yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, her name's Mickey. She's 14. And this is the only weird thing that I'm like, this doesn't make any sense at all. So they fix up the gym after the next couple weeks because they're like, all the lights are on. The gym's all clean. And they're the only 2 people. Apparently they just like to work out together, hang out. After he's done like with his bullshit corporate job, he's like.
Yeah, because he wants to be a lawyer, but they're having him do things that aren't quite, you know, he's not representing.
He wants to help people. Yeah, he wants to help people.
And he's not helping the people that he wants to right now.
Yeah.
So
So him and Mickey are kind of like hanging out. She likes to hang out there like at night because she like sneaks out of her room and goes and does that. And her parents don't know, but she's not really doing anything bad. So, who cares? So Daredevil's doing that. And then this is where we see, this was like a weird plot point that I just was like, wow, like I can't believe Marvel let them do this. But basically it cuts to Kingpin and he's like, first he walks by a diner and hears his fucking fat friend Foggy ordering a sandwich and is like, I know that fat fuck's voice and like what he would order. And it's Foggy. And so he goes in and he's like, hey, Foggy. And then they're talking about the case that Foggy's on and Matt's on and whatnot. And he's like, I could really use your help. It's kind of like a slumlord versus the tenants. And the tenants are just trying to like live in a nice apartment. The slumlord's being a dick. So Matt agrees to help because that's kind of what he wants to do anyway. So he's like, I'll help on my off time. So we cut to Kingpin. And Kingpin is like, God damn it, I'm looking at our budget numbers on this child pornography we're producing.
we need to cut. It starts off as just the film part.
Yeah.
And then very quickly is like.
Because he's like, these films are costing too much money. They're too much production value. We need to like cut down on the production value. And I'm assuming they're paying the actors because they say like we need a 12-year-old for this movie film to, like, he has Lark talk to the guy who produces the movie's name, Clay, and Clay is talking to Lark, the right-hand man of Kingpin, and he's like, I don't care what you do, but you got to get these costs down. I don't know, just find a 12-year-old or whatever to be in the movie, and that way we don't got to pay her or whatever. I don't know what they were doing, if they were paying them, or I would imagine they were just stealing kids anyway. How expensive could it be? I don't know, but
apparently the costs are too high.
Apparently he was filming it on 35 millimeter cameras or something, and he's trying to be real artistic or something. I don't know. It's horrible though. I can't believe Marvel let this be a plot line where Kingpin literally says, "Hey, my like profit margin on this kiddie porn isn't tight enough. I need it to be better. Make that happen." And so that's like the plot for the rest of this book.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know how they got away with that, or maybe because they didn't straight up say child porn, but then they're like, these films and get me a 12-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, okay. So basically the guy Clay is like, oh shit, like we're going to be, like basically Lark just said, make it happen. I don't care what you do. So Clay was like, okay. So he, being a dumbass, hires two junkies to kidnap a 12-year-old, and it's like, make sure they're 12. And so they see Mickey walking home from the gym one night, and they kidnap her. And she's 14, but they don't know that. So they kidnap her, and then right away, like Kingpin and the junkies like, shit, she's fucking 14. We can't use her. That is the plot of like Kingpin's arc in this, which is horrifying.
Yeah,
I can't think of another thing that like Kingpin has done worse than that.
I got excited seeing Kingpin because he looks really cool in this. He's the gigantically overly
he's
large,
fucking
huge bulky egg of a creature, man.
Yeah. He looks like an egg, like a giant egg
that's jacked
with legs and arms,
but jacked by like 1950s wrestler terms, so where it's like you don't have
abs, but underneath those
shape.
rolls, underneath your thick body is
muscle.
all muscle.
Yeah.
So
you're not toned and defined.
Yeah. It's like like Olympic weightlifters. They look like, big fat people, and then they lift like thousands of pounds.
Kingpin looks awesome, and he like is legit terrified. Like when his hands come in, he is legit like, oh, cool, Kingpin. And then it quickly is like, I want to talk about my kiddie porn. Right?
Yeah,
how we can lower the cost. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah. These child actors are ridiculously priced. Like, what the fuck? So
go back to the drugs. What's going on?
Yeah, let's just stick to drugs here, man. So anyway, that was like one of the most horrifying things on this. And I didn't feel like that was necessarily a kernel of crazy, but it definitely fits into the I am now writing Sin City, which is really heavily based on really fucked up stuff happening to kids or people in general. And now that I'm going to include that into my Marvel stuff. So he does that. And he does it well. I mean, I think this was written well and it fits, but it's just kind of like shocking because most of the time he's like, I will buy some land and then charge the tenants extra money, or whatever. And it's like, this is like, nah, I want to like sell children for pornography or whatever. It's like, Jesus Christ. So Daredevil finds out about like Mickey missing. He finds her hat. He goes to like her house. He hears the parents saying like, oh my God, like she's gone. And so like he goes on a mission to find her. He goes back to the gym. He like gets his old stick out of his old locker. He's like gonna beat some shit. They're gonna beat some people up. And in the meantime, Kingpin's like, what? 14? I said 12. And so then he just starts killing all the people that got the 14-year-old Mickey. So Clay is like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I gotta get out of here. And he like gets in his limousine and it explodes. And then like in the meantime, the two junkies still have Mickey, and they're like, we're gonna ransom her. So they like find out her address.
Get something for it.
Yeah, they find her name. They get the address. They call the parents and like, hey, we want $6,000, a huge amount of money or whatever. But so the dad gets $6,000, drops it off, and Daredevil like has been following the dad from earlier. So he's waiting where the dad dropped the money off, waits for the junkie. The junkie comes, and then he follows the junkie home. And right when the junkie like knocks on his own door to have his girlfriend let him in, he gets shot in the head. So his like head explodes, which was also very graphic for Marvel at that time. I was like, whoa, like the back of his head and blood chunks are coming out.
All of the deaths from here on get to be very
yes, very much so. Since Elektra. Pretty much since Elektra started kneeing people and breaking their vertebrae and stuff, it's pretty hardcore for Marvel. And even this, like his head explodes, and Daredevil's like on a staircase, kind of coming up the stairs behind him, and he's in like his doorway faces, I guess the stairwell itself. So Daredevil's coming up, and he gets sprayed in the face with the brains and bone and blood of the guy that just got his head blown off. And he's like, ugh. And then like, he's like, oh my God. And then like Lark, who was waiting in there to shoot him, to shoot the junkie, is like, oh my God. And he's like, starts shooting at Daredevil or Matt. Right now he's not Daredevil. He's like you said, he's never dressed up in the costume until the very last page. So he's just in regular street clothes. And he starts shooting at Matt, and Matt jumps down the stairs and gets away. He's like, man, what was that? Some kind of cop? I'm like, I don't know, but you better fucking find him. So then we cut to some storage container yard where apparently they keep hundreds of children who are, I don't know, like...
it was weird because they were like, they're all in different rooms, but they didn't really say like what they were there for. Were they being trafficked? Were they for...
I'm assuming they're either going to ship them somewhere or like... In other movies I've seen, it was
down by the dock.
There's a camera and they're gonna make videos of them or something. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what the fuck was going on. They couldn't show it too graphically, obviously, because Marvel wouldn't have that for sure. But they can talk about it. But he goes down there, like he knows where the guy like went to, and so he has his full like Netflix costume. If you've seen the Netflix show. He's got the black bandana covering his eyes. Yeah.
It's black sweatpants, black sweat shirt, and a bandana over his eyes.
Yeah, basically. But like tight fitting.
Yeah. And actually the panels with it are really cool, especially the ones where it's like him like
it
kind of
looks
forward.
Fucking cool. And they actually took shots from this for that show.
The show? That makes sense.
And this is also very much used, especially Elektra in season 2. I think this is like what all that's based on. A lot of that is based on this comic. So if you like the show, check this out for sure. But so he chases him down there, and then he just starts beating the fuck and murdering everybody. Like he goes to the dock area and he like finds these guys, chases them down. They have like grenades on them, and he like pushes all of them in the water with the grenades, pulls all the pins, and they explode underwater. And stuff. So you're like, they're fucking dead. They don't show it on screen necessarily. They will show him beat the fuck out of them with.
They show the water splashing.
They show the water splashing, but they don't show like guts coming out. Yeah. Or anything. But like they will show him like throw a billy club at their face or whatever and be all bloody and everything. So that's basically what happens. He's just beating up like 40 guys with his billy club and just beating the fuck out of him, doing a great job being Daredevil. And then like basically Mickey and Lark get away. Like Lark grabs Mickey and runs away with her, and so Daredevil's chasing him.
I guess Daredevil we don't know if he actually helps save the other children. That was one of the.
It's assumed because the cops show up.
That's true.
The cops show up after he beats the fuck out of everybody else, and he's about to go chase Lark. And the cops show up. They arrest Daredevil actually, and then he breaks out of the cop car to go get Lark. So Lark's like hiding with her in some kind of like, I don't know, wherever he breaks into, some kind of like just door with a wall with walls behind him, some kind of shack. And he's got Mickey, and Daredevil just looks like he ain't having none. And so this is like one of the coolest fucking fight scenes, I think. This whole like last issue is just him beating the fuck out of people. Really, really dynamic shots from John Romita Jr.'s art and everything. Just iconic Daredevil stuff in this. And like by this time his hair's all tousled out of the bandana and everything. So he just looks all like, I am so ready for this fucking fight to be over. I'm so ready to murder you. I hate you. And so the guy's like, Lark pulls his gun out and he shoots at him and he hits him in the arm, and Daredevil doesn't even fucking move. He's like, I don't give a fuck about pain. I just want you to like go down.
Yeah, and Daredevil basically just keeps walking towards him and is like, look, I don't want to kill you. He just keeps repeating, I don't want to kill you. Let go of the girl.
And then Lark starts shooting at him. And this was badass, I thought. And I've never seen him do this in the shows or anything, but he hits the bullets back with his billy club.
Yeah, I've never seen him do that either.
It was fucking cool. Like, he's like, bam, ting, bam, ting. And he's like hitting it. And I guess his reflexes are so fast and he's so like keyed into the sound of the gun that he knows when he can swing, to hit the bullet and all that stuff. So basically he keeps saying like, I'm not, I don't want to kill you. Stop shooting. I don't want to kill you. And then on the last one, he like hits the bullet and it, hits Lark in between his eyes.
Just a perfect shot through his, like, he's wearing glasses, and it's a really cool panel.
Yeah. So then, Mickey said, woohoo, Kingpin is now like, I will get to this Daredevil for killing my Lark, my sweet Lark. And, and so now he knows I'm going to have to like beat this guy up. And now Matt has decided to move permanently to New York and open a law firm with Foggy.
They flip a coin. Is it going to be Foggy and Nelson, Nelson and Murdock, or
Murdock and Nelson? And they go with Nelson and Murdock. And we see Stick. He's in like the diner where they do the flip or whatever, and he's like, "Watch out for yourself, kid," or whatever. And that's pretty much the end of it. And then you get like one last shot of him running on the rooftop, being like, "I am Daredevil."
Yeah, I wear like a badge. I wear the name Daredevil now with like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
And this cool costume I made. I mean, I don't know what it looks like, but
I made it.
I made it.
So yeah, apparently he's got a sewing machine. But that was like how it ends. Pretty much him jumping off the building, and it was cool. The costume originally, if you look at the panel closely, as he's jumping, it like goes through the cycles of his costume. So it's like the early yellow costume, and then a couple of little iterations through that, and then red, and then like the whatever the modern one was in 1993. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome story. I liked this a lot. Was there anything you wanted to touch on?
I was gonna say in general, I really, really like the art again. I'm enjoying Romita Jr. and Frank Miller's storytelling for the most part. One thing I was curious about, and I mean, I feel like I know the answer, but what I noticed is in a lot of the art on this, there was a lot of yellow, kind of like squares, in the background of the page. I didn't know if that was like artistic. I thought maybe money saving.
No, I think so. A lot of this had a lot of the what's it called? The little dots that look like old school comics and stuff. And I noticed that more in the older stuff. So like as he was younger, it was way more of that.
Yeah.
And I think it was he was trying to set the tone like this is back in the day. Like it was printed like comics were back in the day.
Oh, okay.
So then like he had a lot of weird like I think they're like what they used to do is lay that over in the background, and then they draw on top of it or whatever, or I'm sorry, draw and then lay that over it, and then that way it would be like filler in the background and whatnot, and it would look they would cut it out with like a razor blade and stuff. So there was a bunch of different like, I guess Mylar, like plastics that they would put over things to give it like texture.
Okay.
And so I think that was all that. But it was only on those earlier issues. If you look at the later issues, there's like none of that at all.
No, that's true. I wasn't sure.
So I think it was just trying to represent this is the past, and like we're gonna get away from this, as we go through it.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. I did notice that though. I was like, wow, that's weird that they would go with that, and then it made sense more as it went on. But yeah, John Romita Jr. fucking knocked this one out of the park. Fantastic art, and like I said, Frank Miller, this was great. It was, you could definitely feel the seeds of some of his Jumping the Sharks on. If you don't like Frank Miller's later stuff, you can look at this and definitely see where some of that came from later on. But I liked it a lot. I think this is still a solid story. What would you give this one, John?
So I'm a pretty big Daredevil fan like that. I think that was one of the so I read Spider-Man, and I read some crossovers. That was stuff my mom got. It was like Spider-Man meets so-and-so, and Daredevil was one of the first ones that had. Now I like this cool, and I think the first superhero movie I saw in theaters by myself
fantastic Daredevil movie,
Ben Affleck's Daredevil, which has its moments. It's not a great movie. I understand.
Sure, the parts that are like, we are trying to be a Daredevil movie are okay.
Yeah.
And then the parts that are like, wake me up inside.
Wake me up.
I can't wake up inside.
Or that park fight scene. We won't talk about that though. But in general,
that's your favorite scene? Or?
No. I would just say no. That being one of the worst. But I distinctly remember like, oh, I like Daredevil. Daredevil's cool. I'm gonna go see this movie. So that being said, like reading this, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I do know his like background really well.
Yeah,
like, it made me be like, oh man, I want to go back and watch the Netflix show. Which I totally hope Disney repicks back up for.
That'd be fantastic. That was like the best one,
Yeah, Daredevil and then and Punisher show for sure.
Oh yeah, Punisher was awesome.
And Disney could do that anyway.
And they could do like a joint show. Let's do like season 2 of Daredevil was Punisher season 1 kind of. So
that's true. But what I give it, I liked it a lot. I'm gonna say an 8 for this one.
An 8?
Yeah, solid.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one an 8 too. The art was fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
the storytelling was good and like solid. Like it was solid. Frank Miller. You could definitely see like he's going for a year 1 story again for this, which is kind of him redoing some of the same stuff he's done. But it wasn't like he was phoning it in. He definitely added to the characters that he'd already created. Like, I mean, he created Elektra. So like,
oh, that's cool.
He, had her in the original comic series that he wrote, and then was like, and now I'm going to define why she, like, this is actually her being crazier. Yeah, all of that stuff. That was all like Frank Miller's, all the foot, all that ninja stuff. That's all him. So,
you mean the hand?
I'm sorry. Fuck.
No, that's good. The hand, because
Ninja Turtles. You're messing me up again.
Well, no, that's I mean, come on, that's obviously. Like,
well, no, we said that in the Ninja Turtles one, but yeah. So I always get them confused because of that. But yeah. So, I mean, it's just him like kind of just filling in little gaps that he had in his own mythology that he made, that he like couldn't tell, or maybe couldn't tell as graphically as he wanted to. So like this definitely had some balls that was. It made you think of some characters differently than you would have before. Like Kingpin, like I said, it's kind of like looking at old school like Superman or something, and like Gene Hackman's like, let's buy some land or whatever, and you're like, all right, like I guess that's what bad guys do. And then you see like a newer version where he's like, I'm gonna take over the earth and like burn everybody, and you're like, Jesus Christ, this escalated quickly. And so yeah, that's kind of what it was like. It was like, wow, I haven't really read a Kingpin story where he's that fucked up in a long time. So.
Of all of the comics we have read so far, this was definitely the most like, ooh, like gave me like
it was very creepy reading that whole little section of like like, see here, our business is not doing
We
well.
have read some true crime comics
Yes.
in this podcast.
Yes.
And this was still the creepiest
Yes.
of all of those crimes. And this is
fiction.
legit fake
This is
fiction.
So, yeah, it was definitely creepy. So, trigger warning for all you who might get triggered by that. But, I mean, it definitely made you hate the Wilson Fisk, Kingpin organization so much that when he goes crazy at the end, you're like, fuck.
Kill them all.
Kill them all. So, I'm going to give it an 8. You're going to give it an 8. It's fucking awesome. Pick it up. I'm sure it's still, I don't know if it's, I know it's available on Comixology for sure. But because that's what we read it digitally. But, if there's hardcovers of this deserves a hardcover. I should have this in like a deluxe edition of it. So, but yeah, so next week we're going to go back to some of our little origin, early episodes of this podcast, and we're going to pick up some Hellblazer again.
Awesome.
We're going to be reading Hellblazer Dangerous Habits, which is the first volume of... Is the first? It might be the second. I can't remember if it's the first or second volume of the Garth Ennis run of Hellblazer. But it's fucking awesome. It's one of the best runs of any comic ever. I would even be... If you like it a lot, I would be down to read the Garth Ennis 4 trades in a row for the next 4 weeks or whatever.
I'll just do
just do like that.
A couple parts. That
little run, yeah.
Maybe we'll see. I really did like for being only in Constantine before this podcast was that movie.
Yeah.
And actually sitting down and reading that first one with you, I was like, oh, Constantine's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Now I know why you've been yakking my ear off all these years about why Constantine's so badass.
Yeah. Well, and for sure, this one you will like a lot if you liked the movie, because everything that's cool in the movie is from this run, and everything that sucked in the movie is not in this run. So if you liked the movie for the little hints of cool things that they alluded to that were from the comic, then you're going to love this run.
Awesome.
So if you guys want to hear us spoil it, you can listen to it next week. If you guys want to read it ahead of time and listen and hear our thoughts on it, pick it up and check it out. I know it's available on Comixology's, probably pretty cheap. I think they're usually $5.99 or something like that. So on that note, if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget to check out our Twitter, our Instagram, our Facebook, and our YouTube channel for exclusive content. We got Matt's minis. We've got hardcover reviews on there, and our Swamp Thing. If you've not checked out the Swamp Thing statue, go check out that video.
Yeah. And also, I'm doing another hardcover review this week, I think, if I have time, which is I got the Killing Joke Absolute for my birthday, and it's fucking awesome. So I need to go through that on the hardcover reviews. So on that note, we'll see you guys next time.
On the next one.
Bye. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.